Hello everyone, I'm Fallout 4 guy and welcome to the behind the scenes video for my recent Nuka City build. So I want to get right to this because it's probably going to be a long video, to be honest. I've quite a bit to show, and I wanted to talk about just kind of the build process. I've been asked by a few people on YouTube and on Reddit as well, and I think on Facebook too, about how I kind of plan these cities out, or what the thought process, the build process is. And to be honest, it's been quite a difficult question to answer because well, this is my first city first of all, so I don't really have a point of reference on how to plan it out or whatever, so having never done it before, and also because I don't really know exactly how the best way to go about doing it is. I can tell you how and what I started with, and that was the gates. So the very first thing I did when I got here was the gates. Now I knew I wanted to do a city, obviously, so the location I picked was something that was very open and bare. And if you've never been to this spot before, to Nuka Red Rocket, it pretty much is just barren. It looks like that, you know. There's nothing about, but it's obviously got the Red Rocket garage is the only structure that's sort of situated in the middle of the place. So I knew I wanted to sort of use as much area as possible. So I didn't want any buildings and things around, but I couldn't delete the Red Rocket, so I had to kind of include it. So I put the gate the furthest that I could, so it's right literally on the edge of the build area, enough for me just to be able to stand back without being outside the build area. So that's where I built the gate. And I suppose at the time when I built this, I didn't really know what I was kind of going for. I knew I wanted a metal industrial looking city. So the airplane parts, straight away I was like, okay, I want to use these as like, kind of towers and things. So I tilted these up on their sides and put the fire in them, which is like just the effects from CVA and stuff. And straight away, so I thought, right, I've got like a real industrial looking smoky thing going on now. And then that kind of set the theme then in my mind to what would become the city after that. Now there is wood on the gate, but I kind of wanted to keep the wood to a minimum in the build. And if you look around all the walls are made out of mainly the aeroplane wings, but there are just bits of wood and patches and fences and stuff in there, just to kind of mix things up a little bit, and just to kind of make it look like, materials aren't always as abundant as it looks like here. But of course a city would have a lot of manpower, so some of these bigger stuff, it just make kind of sense to use those really. And the sign, I've done the sign like this before. I did a similar sign on my roadshow build, which is just out of the AC ducting, and of course I find those easy to tilt and just use them to write letters out of. Basically on PS4 we haven't really got that much options to make signs ourselves, so the AC parts are quite cool. All my mods that I've used are all going to be in the description of this as always, so yeah, just check that out. And then yeah, so I didn't actually build a wall around the whole place. Is probably what you might think I did next, which no. So I just built the gate, which was kind of my marker, and then I didn't build the wall until I think that was it was either one of the last things I built or almost the last things I built, just because I didn't know the size of the place really, so I had no idea of the footprint and how much it would let me build in the game. So I found it was easy just to build all the buildings and then put the wall in at the end, and then I wasn't having to move things later. So then the next thing I did was put this structure in, the apartment building. Again, this is just logic really. Everything that was going to be big I used at the start, just so obviously it takes up the most space, so you want to get a good idea of how much you fill in, and B, placing some of these massive structures, particularly like the fuselage of this plane, you need a lot of space, a lot of open area to do it, so it's easier to place the big things as quick as possible really, and get an idea kind of the scale of everything really, and you can kind of build off that. So I put the plane in first, and then originally I think on the very first design I was planning to decorate and have all the flats inside inside the plane. So basically I was going to have at least 2 or 3 apartments I could go into, but I found out quickly that once I put it up on its side, that you couldn't actually access, you couldn't get through the windows and things. There's not a gap on the plane that you can actually walk through. You can when it's on its belly, the right way up, you can get through. They're tall enough for the player. It's got enough headroom basically, but you can't when it's on its side. So that was that one. But that turned out good, to be honest, because it just meant that it was less things I had to decorate, and that brings me on to all these buildings here. Now, again, at the time when I built them, I was going to decorate them, but as the build grew and bigger, and I got near the end, I was like, well, I've got to make sacrifices now. So a lot of these structures, the bigger ones, are not decorated, especially obviously this one, to kind of get around and give the illusion that they weren't just lifeless structures. I did decorate the ones that obviously I showed in the video, but the others, like this for example, they're just false walls. Now, I suppose it's a bit cheating, but it's a trick Bethesda use themselves. So really, it's just one of those limitations that the system has. You saw the player home in the tour, but of course everybody knows that I can decorate, and this wasn't really about showing how to decorate buildings and rooms and things. You've seen that in some other videos, and so many people do that kind of stuff anyway. It was more about the architecture of the place, really. So yeah, the cutbacks were sort of strategic, in the sense that to save on system resources and things. But yeah, so let me talk about what these parts are. This is where it tests my memory, because I've got a lot of mods, and although I do list all my mods, I forget which mods things are from. But I will start with the ones I do know for sure. So the pumps you've seen before in my Shamrock Tap House build, but this is actually a mod, and I did give a shout out to this in the tour, but just in case you didn't see it or you missed what I was saying. But basically this is made by Toys Out of a Pram. His actual name as a modder is OICTOOPT. I don't know, TP, sorry, Pram, obviously I can't spell. but yeah, again, his mods are great. I've got a lot of his mods in here. The optics that you can see on the wall, the pumps that he's called for, like Fall Guy Beer Tap's very proud of that, are just a recreation of my pumps that I built to the Shamrock one, but these are placeable now, so it's so much more convenient. He's actually done a slightly better version than mine anyway, to be honest. They've got the rescaled objects on that I can't obviously do on PC. On PS4 you can do them on PC. And then I asked him to make me a couple of cocktail signs and things. Now again, I've included these in my other builds in the past, but I've made them myself out of the letters and hyphens, whereas he's just done a pre-made one, so I haven't had to keep reproducing the same stuff. But yeah, so his mods, basically, as I walk around, you'll see a lot of the stuff. It's all parts of his mods, really, but I just forget which parts they come from. So and there's some more of his signs. Again, the cold beer sign, that was mine from again Shamrock Tap House. I forget which stuff I put things in, but yeah, it was the Tap House one. It was in the window. He just mounted it on a mirror that he's resized for me again. They were kind of requested. He's a really good guy, actually. If you request stuff off him, he'll generally just accommodate and make stuff. But yeah, again, going with the illusions, it's all empty up here. Not really much surprise that I didn't decorate every single nook and cranny, but it was just one of those things that it looks like there's stuff going on there, but there isn't. So, and it's just to keep the place looking lived in as much as possible. And I mentioned in my other on my tour that I obviously couldn't put any settlers in, and that was a real shitter for me. So the kind of illusions that stuff was going on was even more important then. Although I did have plans to decorate all these places, but it wasn't meant to be. And that goes for the shops too. So the shops was something that I fleshed in as I was building. So as I got down to the bottom of this, because again, when I build these tall towers, and I've done stuff like this in the past with my roadshow build, for example. The Truckosaurus I made, I'm not worried about the foundations much at the time when I build these things. Anything with height, I build the tallest thing first, and then I start building downwards, basically. Because the reason why it's probably better to do it that way, especially on PlayStation 4, is that obviously, you know, you want to keep your build limit as low as you possibly can. This build's actually 4 times over, but I still was trying to save as much as I could, and foundations are just not that important if you're going to put obstructions in front of it that you can't see behind them. So as you see, when I get around here, it's all hollow, and although, you know, it wouldn't have made much difference to put a few more legs and things on it, you know, why bother? Basically, you can save on your build limit and save on your time. So yeah, so I'll build down, and then by that way, once I've filled out what's here, I know then what can be seen from where where I'm standing, and then I'll take time to put structures and legs and supports. You know, if you look at all my my catwalks, you'll see there's supports on everything. I don't just have things floating because you know, it's all about that, obviously looking realistic, but obviously behind the scenes stuff's floating because it's just easy to do that way. So yeah, so all the shops and things were fleshed out beforehand because I knew obviously I wanted to fill as much of the ground area as possible. But the shops themselves, again, are illusions. They're not decorated. Particularly with shops like this, and this is like a hardware household stuff. So the amount of items I would need to make this place look kind of to my standard of what I would think is believable would just lag my game up needlessly, really. And the same with the salon. The salon was actually one of the last things I decorated, and I was actually gonna put like basins and things. I was gonna do a full-on salon because I had a glass door on this, and I had the window obviously like open, you could see through it, and I was just gonna be able to, you know, walk past and show that this stuff all decorated. And then as I got near the end and it was starting to judder a little bit, I just thought, nah, not going to bother doing that. So I just came up with this little window display, really, of the wigs. You know, it's effective enough that you can tell what it's supposed to be, but no more needed than that. The vehicle was simply a case of, I had this big space and I had a lot of things built here. Originally, I think about 4 different ideas. I didn't like any of them, so I just took them out and put a car there. When in doubt, just build a vehicle. It's a surefire way of filling some space. And yeah, I don't really need to probably talk about these anymore. You guys have seen a lot of my vehicles, but you can kind of see as I hover over other different items that are used in this one. Lots of little spikes and things. The base, just in case you can't quite see what it is, it's a van and just the standard truck, but the explodable one, so the wheels are already on this one. And yeah, you can pretty much see all the other stuff, really. Now I was going to not do this side of the truck, just to kind of save on time and build resources, but I wasn't sure if I was going to ever do anything around the back corner of there, and although I didn't in the end, I think originally there was going to be like a security post in there, and I was going to have a catwalk and things, so I thought, oh, I better just do this symmetrical while I'm building it, so I know exactly what I'm putting on each side, and I haven't got to go back and try and mirror it again. So I did all that, and then I never actually bothered doing a security outpost in the end, again because it was one of the last things, and I just thought, oh, it's not really needed. So yeah, so the food store as well, it's you can just see it's an aeroplane fuselage again, just kind of going with the theme of that, and it's hollow. I didn't put anything in there, and the bottom bit as well. I tried to avoid anything that had loads of little items that would have needed to be displayed on shelves, really, that, you know, anything that like a food shop would have lots of different boxes and cans of food and stuff, and I just didn't want to bother with all that, really. Again, the little smelting area, I used as little deco as possible, just pre-done items and things and stacked stuff really, and tried to keep it as clutter free again to save the frame rate. One of the things I've learned when I've been building, say, even the smaller stuff, is that you can build really as much as you like over the limit really. I mean, you can keep on going and keep on going and the game will just put it with it, but as soon as you start to add the clutter, that's when it all goes to shit really. It's very taxing on the processing power of the CPU, and I think making things static and stuff as well just doesn't help. So again, I've tried to keep the decor down on this build in particular, but it's just a necessary means really. But yeah, hey ho, this build is more about the architecture really than the decor, so yeah, it didn't really matter so much. So on to kind of more about the planning and processing again now. So as for the planning itself, I don't really plan my builds out, I've got to be honest. I'm one of these people that just kind of wings it, just hopes for the best. I always have an idea in my head, and I know I'm quite imaginative in terms of I've got like a vivid imagination. I can pretty much see my design in my head quite clearly before I even start, and I know what I want, and then with a bigger build like this, I then make a list of all the things that I want to include in that. So I know the look, and I know roughly like how the layout's going to be in terms of like, oh, it's going to be towering up high, and I want it all to be metal, and like look like space is an issue, and that they've tried to cram as many people in as possible. Very like hustle and bustle type looking city. So I knew all that, but I think, right, what do I want to include in there? So I think, well, a gun shop, hardware store, obviously eateries, pubs, gym, garage, all these things. Then I kind of narrow down the things that I think could be done in the game, or the things that the game is going to allow me to do. Like, for example, I've skipped the food stores and stuff as much as possible because of the frame rate, but I did like the gun shop and things, and I think that process of elimination then helps you to kind of plan out, if you like, if you can call it planning. Again, I don't map the place out. I don't really know where these buildings are going to go. I just put them in as I'm building, so I just kind of wing it after that. And I like the decor, like in these places that I did actually bother decorating. Again, it's pretty basic really for me. If you've seen some other stuff, I kind of go over the top with some of the decor I do in some places. But yeah, this is a lot of pre-built, pre-decorated stuff. It's not necessarily cheating really, I suppose, as long as you get the message across of what you're trying to make it look like. But these shelves are actually pre-decorated, and they're from OSC's military shelving or something. I can't remember his mods, what they're called. Again, they're in my list, but just basically get all his mods because they're brilliant. Every one of them is great. But yeah, so they're just pre-decorated stuff, and again, it just saves me time really, and not having to worry too much about clutter. The sign is CVA. It's just the usual guns, as you can probably tell. I've just sunk it into the counter a little bit, so no special signs there. As are all the signs actually on this from CVA, nothing really custom made. So yeah, once I got the outline of the couple of shops on the bottom here, and then I just started to sort of stack up on top. Now, one of the things I did really take a lot of time to do was to make sure the catwalks all work. So I know this place looks very maze-like and kind of like a headache to sort of navigate, but it's really not that bad, and all the catwalks are all accessible. Every single one of them you can get to where you can see, these houses can all be reached. Even though they're just fake houses, I wanted it to look believable, like you could get there. And of course, by doing that, you kind of open up another can of worms, and of trying to not only just make things look interesting, as in make the houses kind of look a little bit off center and sticking out, there's supports and things everywhere, but also that you can still get to them is a whole other challenge then. But it was important that it looked that way. I think the biggest actual challenge with this place really was just to not repeat things. You know, like obviously with if you're on PC or even Xbox, you've got other textures, but you know, I'm only really limited by the textures that are actually in the game. So I kind of didn't want to just reuse textures over and over again in a way that you could tell. But of course I have reused textures over and over again, and you can see that when you really look at it. But hopefully it's not, you know, it doesn't hit you like it does. I noticed that straight away when I see other people's builds and stuff. If they've used two textures next to each other or something, I'm like, it really messes my OCD. I hate that. But yeah, I was quite, you know, cautious not to do that. Even when it comes down to like the shipping containers and things, you know, trying not to use the same color too much, or trying to spread it out, even though there's only a couple of colors, like, you know. Actually, this shipping container building, I saw a couple of images of these types of buildings that people are making shipping containers out in real life. They, you know, they build the houses out of them and stuff, and it really kind of thought, oh, that was such a cool thing to do. So that really kind of inspired me to build this. So this was like an afterthought as such. It wasn't in my original sort of plan for the look of the place. I just thought it would be cool to have it. So it kind of like stands out a little bit. It's not quite matching with the other stuff, which is why I kind of wanted to make it look construction-y a little bit, because I thought, well, it looks like it's being built, or it, in my mind at least, looks like it's kind of more of a progression of the city. So this part of the city is all older, you know, more ramshackled metal and things like that, you know, debris and stuff, and this one's a bit more well made, I suppose, is the best way of saying it. And yeah, it's kind of like, that's why I kind of incorporate as a construction thing, so you can sort of see it being built. But yeah, that was definitely inspired by real life stuff though. The garage sign is also from OIC's mod. I can't remember which one. It might be from his work in progress requested, I think it's called, mod. But again, just get all his mods, because I don't really know which ones are which. And it's just I imagine he's done this sign for somebody else, because obviously he's resized the spanner and things, but I can't do that on the PlayStation. And there's just a normal what you call it, Hester's sign from CVA underneath it. Don't know why I did that, just thought it looked interesting. I didn't just want to use the actual sign, and it's just panelled behind to kind of make it look a bit more scrappy. Same as the detective sign, so that's another one of his, but he's obviously made it for somebody as a requested thing. Can't quite click it. It's actually got quite a lot to it. Look, it's quite cool. It's got a resized magnifying glass and stuff. But I just like the red neon sign there. That's the CVA one, I think. I doubt there's anything in here I need to talk about. No, don't think so. So a lot of this is one of his OIC's pre-decorated stuff as well. But the vehicle itself is obviously one of mine, and this is one I think I did mention that this has got no base vehicle on it, and I've started to kind of get bored of using the base vehicles now, because you know there's only so many new designs I can come up with through using the standard in-game ones, and I like to make every single vehicle I make look different to the last one. I hope, you know, none of them look the same as each other. And yeah, so I kind of thought, well, I'm not going to bother using the base. So this is actually made from just loads of different parts. All the piping you see is all separate pieces, just to kind of give the roll cage look to it. You can see that the hood of the car itself is a generator tilted on its back. Got lots of different parts. I can't can't actually pull it all out, there's too much, but you can kind of see what, there's all railings and things. I think that cage is has a forklift truck. So yeah. And then I did use the frame of an old, the chassis of a car basically, just to kind of give that edge to it and give the bits of suspension that you can just see past the wheel. But other than that, there's actually no base vehicle. So yeah, and that's just hiding the fact that the generator is stuck through the bottom of the floor. So the gym was actually, in fact, this whole entire area was actually a really puzzling part for me. To be honest, I had this empty for so long, this area. I just did not know what to put here. And from when I was standing back here and looking down the street, everything looked great. I was happy with how all these shops and how busy this looked. But there was this big empty spot at the end that I just thought, what the hell am I going to put there? What can I use that's big enough to fill and kind of make that skyline look, the shape it does. So yeah, I ended up with a gym. I don't know why, I just thought of a big building. I thought gyms are usually big, so it was easy. I also wanted something I didn't have to decorate too much, and then I could look through the window and see all the stuff in there, which again screamed gym to me, because you can instantly recognise what that is just by looking at two things in the window. It's a gym. You don't need to see any more than that. I did actually have plans on doing more inside it. I was going to have a guy in reception or a robot in reception or something, and I was going to have a lot more going on in here, and I was going to have settlers in here obviously and using the weights and things, but purely because of this grass coming through the floor, and because I didn't want the foundation to be any higher than it already was, I didn't bother, because I couldn't remove this grass for some reason. It wouldn't delete, I don't know why. So it kind of, in a sense, saved me the time and trouble of doing that, but I don't think it suffers too much from it. And then just because Madden's is an actual gym in the game, but I didn't know if everybody knew that or not, I just built this little dude on top holding the barbell over his head, and just thought that would be enough to really sell the fact that it's a gym. That was all that was needed. And he's just made out of a barrel for his body, two support beams for his arms, and a couple of poles and some tires you can probably see, and his head's one of the rooftop vents, that slowly rotate around. You can just about see it rotating. Pretty simple, really. And like I said, I did the walls and things last, but I wanted it to look like it was all sealed in, so even though I didn't come around here in the tour video, sorry, I wanted it to be able to, if you look through the gate, you can see it's all complete. Now the other thing that stumped me for quite a while was how to sort of fill these existing rooms in Red Rocket. So the detective agency was purely thought up because of the signs, because I had the signs. I thought, well, I might as well use those. They looked quite cool. And then this other sign, which is another one of OIC's, I think from the same requested probably section of his mod, and yeah, that's a pre-built thing, but there's nothing actually in the building, as you can see. So it was just again a case of making it look like something's there and not having to actually decorate it myself. The little water pump's just made out of a bunch of stuff, pipes and things. You can probably see what all those are. And then this area, yeah, another one that stumped me. It was just, what the hell do I put here? Again, it was just a big open space, and I thought, don't want to have too much decorating to do, but I knew I still wanted the theme of all the stacked up houses. So yeah, food court just seemed to make sense. But I left this until I think the later stages of the build, just in case I changed my mind, so I didn't decorate it until the end. But yeah, I would have loved to have had settlers sort of all around here, like sitting, eating and drinking. That was kind of the idea, but as I said in the tour, it wasn't meant to be. I think regardless though, you get the idea, and it just takes a little bit of imagination to be able to think what this would look like with lots of people around it. To be honest, the game would never let anybody, no matter what platform you're on, whether you're on PC or not, to have the amount of settlers that a city like this would really need to kind of sell it as a true city. Hundreds and hundreds of people walking around. Of course, that's not possible on any platform. So I suppose it's, regardless, there's always a bit of an element of imagination needed. But I think that the way that the buildings and things are stacked kind of subconsciously makes you think that there's a lot of people here. So it just kind of, you get away with it maybe. But at the time I was like, oh my god, I can't put settlers, I'm going to have to just delete this whole place now, it's pointless. I'm glad I didn't do that. But yeah, I will just sort of walk around this just to show you that you can get to everywhere. Even though I didn't decorate it, you can get to all the different houses and things. That gets to these houses. The walkway over there gets to the higher one. It's another fake little room there. This is an empty shop. So this was going to be the school, which I've got a school sign on it, and again, yeah, you can get to it via this catwalk. So originally there was going to be like classrooms and desks and shit, just like this was just be one big classroom basically. And yeah, I just didn't think there was any need to do it in the end, but the outline of it was there. And then you see you can look around all these as well. So I suppose you could say, well, everything's fake, but you spent up here, but you spent a lot of time getting these walkways right. But I think it was more for me just to make sure that they looked right from the bottom, really. I suppose if I could actually physically walk up them myself, I knew they were definitely right, from the ground up. Now this area, this was one of the last things I built, and this really was a challenge to kind of fill, because by this time I'd done all the build. The only thing I hadn't done, I think, in the city now was the decoration. So everything was pretty much here, all the structures were here, the layout and everything was exactly kind of how I wanted it. But then there was this big empty gap here, and I was just like, I've got no ideas. I've run out of ideas. I had nothing left. I was thinking, what am I going to put here? And my girlfriend will tell you that I went through a lot of stages, and she was getting quite annoyed because I kept deleting stuff that I was building that I didn't like. And one of the ideas I did have that I liked was a park. I was going to put an actual park here. So I did actually start the water feature with the park in mind. And I had this the pond, this is from CVA, by the way, if you're wondering how to get water. And they're a bit tricky to place, but they do work. You just have to get really high. I think I had to be about 6 stories high to place the water. So if you're struggling to use water in CVA, you just need to be higher basically. And that goes for a lot of the bigger stuff in CVA, especially like the billboards and things. You need to be at least 3-4 stories for some of them, or even higher to place them. But anyway, so yeah, I got this down. The rocks are from Grounded, I think. Yes, I think they're from Grounded. And I kind of had this water feature, and then I was going to build this park, and I had like swings and things that I'd built. In fact, here's one of the swings left over that you may not have seen in the tour. So that was originally inside the park area, and then this was actually going to be like one of the walkways in the park. But I don't know, I didn't like it. I don't actually know why. I just didn't like it, so I started to rip it out. And then I thought, oh, how about a cemetery? So I built this graveyard, which was it was all right. It wasn't too bad. I was gonna maybe stay with the graveyard idea. Then I thought like a slums area, but I just didn't want to really build any more houses. I just thought, I've got houses everywhere. I just thought it looked boring. So then I was just like, oh, I've got a farm, and it took me back to my old settlement building days of when I very first started building settlements. And of course I was making settlements for practical reasons, because I was playing the game, and I didn't really build for the fun of it. I just built because the game kind of steered you that way. And yeah, I haven't really built a farm since then. So I'm talking like a year ago or more, probably more. And yeah, it kind of took me back. I think, but I wanted it to sort of keep this water thing in mind. So I just sort of built like a little farm really, and sort of incorporated it in this area because I liked the water feature. I didn't want to delete that, but yeah, the park thing didn't survive, or the cemetery. So yeah, this is kind of how that whole process happened. So a lot of my building, the kind of point I'm trying to make is a lot of it just evolves over time, which I think helps the place itself look more natural, because one of the nice compliments I had was actually that the place looks like it's organically grown, which is exactly what I was going for. So it's great to hear that, and I think that's probably the reason why it looks like that, because it does organically grow, at least in a short, obviously, time that I'm building it. It goes through different stages, and of course in the game it looks like it's gone through those stages over years and years, but this was obviously over a few weeks. So yes, I think the process itself kind of lends towards that. But so don't ever be afraid of ripping things down. You may have spent a couple of hours building something, but if you're not 100% happy with it, and or you think you can do better, then by all means take it out, because chances are it will look better. I've ripped down stuff that I've spent hours and hours building in the past, and I've had my girlfriend literally like going, "Are you mad? What the hell are you doing that for? That's brilliant." And I'm like, no, it's shit. I can do something better than this, and things generally turn out to be better. I don't think I've ever regretted tearing something down. I thought, shit, I should have kept that, because I've always come up with a better design later on. So yeah, so always always second guess your stuff, and does it look right? Could it be better? It's the best tip I can give really in that sense. But yeah, so the decor process then after that, once all the structures and stuff are in place, I kind of then start to flesh out the outsides of the stores, and just with stuff that I think makes sense a little bit, like you've got your sandbags outside the surplus store, and remember, like a shop generally does this in real life. They have things outside to kind of pull you in, and it just makes sense that you would do the same really in Fallout. It doesn't matter how amazing it is decorated inside, if it doesn't look good outside, why would you even go in the shop? So I started putting all that stuff in first, still not entirely sure which ones are going to stay, as in which one I wanted the interiors for and which ones won't. So a lot of that was sort of at the last minute thinking, well, I've got my frame rate's still okay, shall I do this building? And as soon as I put the gun shop in, I think as soon as I put that in, I started to get a few issues that the game started to crash a bit more often, and I got the 0 kilobyte bug a few times, although I've found a way to kind of avoid that a little bit, but that was just because of my own negligence of not really looking how long I've been on for. But generally, if you guys get the 0 kilobyte bug, which if you're on console, I'm pretty sure you've seen it at some point, because it's just an absolute fucking plague of a thing to get. It's so annoying. Yeah, the way I kind of got around that was to delete my Fallout 4 folder completely. Obviously back up your saves, if you want to save them, so put them on a USB or the cloud if you're on PlayStation 4. Back up your saves, delete your folder completely, and I mean like gone, everything, screenshots, all your saves, everything. In fact, the folder itself, just delete that, Then turn your PlayStation off for around 15 minutes, but if you do it longer, even better. And I mean turn it off at the wall, you know, turn the power off, not just shut it down. That deletes the cache, the memory of the cache, so basically nothing then will be saved from the game. Then when you turn the game back on, do a database rebuild. If you don't know how to do that, just Google it. It's not very difficult, but it's a bit long for me to explain here. But yeah, just do a database rebuild basically. And that's nothing that's going to harm your machine. It's a general maintenance thing that's built into the machine. Just not many people know about it. And then boot the game back up. Now, if you adjust your settings before you go into the game, that will force Fallout to make a new folder. And by doing that, hopefully the structure of the save has been sort of redone perfectly then, as if it was a new install. Then you can download your existing save back from you know, the cloud or wherever the hell you put it, and test it out, and you know, make sure obviously your mods and stuff are all in the right order. That goes without saying, regardless whether you get the bug or not. Always have your mods in the right order. Plenty of websites and forums, particularly the Bethesda one, will show you load orders and things to have. But yeah, and then after that, it's generally a case of only build for a couple of hours. The reason why I got it a few times on this one is just because I got carried away. I didn't realise how long I was building for, and it caught me out. But normally I build for around about an hour and a half, 2 hours max. I turn my PlayStation off, I turn it off at the power. So I empty the cache again, so I wait about 15 minutes or so. Then I do a database rebuild before I go back into the game, and I only do hard saves. I never ever use autosaves anymore. Autosaves are one of the causes of it, apparently. Nobody knows really what this bug is caused by. Nobody seems to have a definitive answer, but autosaves definitely are a factor in it. So always do hard save, turn off autosaves, turn off the Pip-Boy save, all that kind of stuff just gone. You know, any wait saves, everything that autosaves basically gone. I only do hard saves, and just empty your saves every now and again, so just manually delete them if they get too many, and never overwrite a hard save. Always make a new hard save. It sounds like a lot of shit to do, and it is a lot of shit to do, but trust me, if you follow by this, the 0 kilobyte bug, you know, it'll just be down to a minimum. And so I only got it recently just because of like being stupid and not kind of paying attention to what I was doing. But yeah, that is the best tip I can give against that, really. But yeah, as soon as you start to add more, just sorry, before I go on about the 0 kilobyte bug and the for me anyway, I don't know about other people, but for me, my experience is the what you call it, the workbench. When you create stuff in the workbench, especially using FreeMaker, which I don't use anymore really, but I used to have FreeMaker before, and that seemed to trigger whenever I used FreeMaker and saved or something afterwards, not long after that I would get the 0 kilobyte bug and the save would be corrupted. And I'm not sure whether it's to do with the game not being able to catch up with it, or I don't understand whether you're making lots of items quickly, or I don't know. I'm not saying the FreeMaker bug, I'm not saying the FreeMaker causes the 0 kilobyte bugs, but I used to get it after using it, so it definitely helps speed the process up of getting that bug coming. Because if like I'd used it, you know, made the FreeMaker items and then 10 minutes later saved, I wouldn't necessarily get the bug. But if I'd use it in that session, I'm going to get the bug in the session generally at some point. Whereas I've been playing for longer and longer, never used FreeMaker to make anything and didn't get the bug. So for me, it seems like it's got something to do with it. I didn't use FreeMaker one bit in this build at all. So you know, I think that may have helped, but also doing all the other maintenance helps too. So I don't actually know what else to talk about, to be honest. There's a lot that's gone into this build, but there's a lot of it that's pretty plain to kind of see what's actually there. There's no like fancy combinations of items I've used that, you know, you might not really know what to do with. Everything's kind of there. It's just a lot of tilted and time consuming stuff, really. Incidentally, just in case you don't know, because I did have someone not ask, but just say I doubt this is on PS4 because of the amount of tilted objects. Obviously you can see it's on PS4. You can see from our menu button there, the exit button is a PS4 button, but tilting is not something that everybody seems to be aware of on PS4. Now QwaPA is the only way you can tilt stuff on PS4, and it's not the easiest mod to use, I suppose, as is with a lot of Tim's mods, but they are the best mods in my opinion on PlayStation 4, and I could not be without QwaPA. Could not really be without CVR, I suppose, in a sense, but QwaPA is the only one that I definitely, if I had to give up every single mod, that would be the one I'd want to keep. So yeah, tilting is a bit of a pain, but it can be done on PlayStation 4 and it makes a massive difference to your build. I strongly recommend having a go with QwaPA. If you used to have Swapper and you got put off because it was so much of a pain to use, well, QwaPA is a lot easier to use. It's actually the replacement to Swapper. It's a more streamlined version of it, basically. Swapper was a pain in the ass, and although I did do a lot of tilting on that mod, I would avoid it if I could, just because it was just so awkward to use. This one, this version, you're just using a free item you can drop from your inventory. You're manipulating it in without outside of workshop mode, and you're basically setting it down and clicking on a stick that you've put next to an item, and then it tilts. It's that simple. What takes ages for me though is the fact that my build menu takes like 45 seconds or 50 seconds to open. So every time I want to re-tilt something, I've got to come out and then wait another minute. I literally just jump on my phone and like reply to messages or something while I wait for my fucking build menu to open, because it takes that long. But yeah, that is the only drawback. I think on Xbox, I might be mistaken, but I think you can tilt things within workshop mode, so you don't need to leave it, which is, I'm quite jealous of that, to be honest. That's one thing I wish I could do on PlayStation, but I have to leave workshop mode every time, and because of all the mods, it just takes too long for it to open again. So yeah, but definitely get QwaPA if you have not had it or you've been put off by it. Give it another go. It's worth your time and effort. And there's lots of videos as well, so before you start shouting at me, do a tutorial for QwaPA. There's so many videos and things out there you can find. You can just Google QwaPA tutorials, and I'm sure you'll find a good couple of. In fact, I'll put a link to one in this video. Actually, I'll do that. Look in the description. There'll be a link, and that'll show you how to use it. But I didn't actually use any tutorial, to be honest. Because I'd used Swapper so much before, I was used to the premise of it, and I kind of just went with it from there, really. So I didn't actually need a tutorial, but at first it's a bit daunting, so I kind of understand totally why you'd want that. Anyway, what else? I think that's about it. I think I've rambled on for long enough. My voice is hurting today for some reason too, so I'm a bit croaky. But, yeah. See, all these walls are tilted as well using QwaPA. I couldn't do any of that without QwaPA, you see. It makes an item that is that's like a wing piece, like a roof, that everybody would just normally use it to either be a floor piece or a roof piece, but now it makes it a wall piece by tilting it. That's why I could never give that mod up. It's too valuable. Didn't bother finishing the wall around this bit, just use these instead. So yeah, so anyway, I hope you like this this behind the scenes. I hope it was informative. I normally obviously take things apart a little bit more and dissect stuff in these videos, but I don't think it really needs it that much. I think you guys probably needed to know maybe the thought process of where the hell you start with something like this. So I hope I kind of covered that a little bit. But yeah, thank you for watching as always, and thank you for all the lovely comments you guys left me on the actual tour itself. Honestly, I really do appreciate everything. I try to reply to everybody that does comment, but if I've missed anybody, I'm sorry. but yeah, the feedback's been great, and I'm so glad that you guys enjoy it, because I will tell you now before I go, If you think that like I just knock these out the park and I'm so sure of myself that every time I'm going to put a build up that you guys are going to love it, I really don't think that at all. In fact, every time I put a build up, I'm always worried that you know, people are going to think, oh, it's not as good as his last one, or he's you know, the quality slipped or anything like that, because that's like, you know, one of my worst fears. I wouldn't want anyone to think that I was putting out mediocre stuff. So no, you know, when I get all the great feedback that you guys give me and everything, that really does kind of make me want to do more builds and keep this stuff coming, because you know, it's it definitely, it helps my confidence, I should say. Because you know, like you know, every time I build something, it's one of those where I'm not trying to directly beat my last build, but you know, obviously I want to give it my all, and make sure each one is in some way, you know, new, or there's something you haven't seen here, or there's some ideas that you know, that you'll get from it. Because ultimately, like, you know, I'm not a tutorial builder, I'm not a let's build YouTuber. I don't like that stuff. I don't watch that stuff myself. It doesn't really interest me. I would always, when I watch a let's build, I'll just skip to the end to see what they've actually created, because that's the bit I'm interested in. I want to see what, you know, what the finished product is. I don't need to, you know, see the walls going up and stuff. And that's fine if you like that kind of stuff, but that's not what I like. So my videos are not normally focused on anything to do with that at all. You know, like, I'm not dismissing that I'll ever do it in the future, but in the past, that's how my videos have been, and that's kind of like my formula, really. And my channel is really more focused on inspiring. I want you guys to look at it and not think, oh, let me copy that exactly, but to be inspired by it, and then, you know, add aspects to it, to your builds and things, which is again why I don't want to just do a tutorial to show you how to build a shack and then have you go copy it. You know, it's not really my thing. And there's already so many people doing that anyway, doing really good tutorials, that I just think that, you know, we don't need another person doing that. And that goes for the that brings me on to the QwaPA tutorial. You know, there's plenty of good ones out there. I don't really need to do one any better than anybody else, so you guys will definitely find it if you just Google that. But as I say, I'll put the link for one that I'll find a good one that I think is good, and I'll put a link in there in the description for it. But as for that, say, I won't really be doing tutorials, so, you know, don't really bother asking, because it's just a waste of time. I'm always building, and I don't have time to do anything but build. My time on the game is, you know, like, I try and cram as much in as I can when I'm building. I build as fast as possible to try and get these videos out in like a matter of weeks. You know, this one in particular took me, well, it took me a month in terms of real time. But I was on holiday for a week, so it took me actually 3 weeks building time, and I was really like sweating trying to get it done as quick as possible. And yeah, just doing tutorials and things would eat into that time is valuable to me. So yeah, that's the story with that, really. But yeah, that being said, I hope you guys can still pull from the behind the scenes stuff I do, which is much quicker for me to do this than it is to do tutorial. And I think way more valuable than doing an hour of let's build where you watch me put this tower up. You know, like, I just think you can kind of see what's there. So yeah, so thank you for everyone watching. I'm sorry that the video is so long, but you know, there's a lot to cover and a lot to talk about. And I'll see you in my next build. Don't know what it's going to be, but thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you soon.